we won a design award for this practice. It's actually the International Academy of Interior Design. We won an award, Best Healthcare Practice in North America.
What's up, guys? So today we're meeting to go over kind of design plans and design finishes for the Bucktown location and kind of how we transitioned from where we initially used to design to how we design now. Historically, we used to focus a lot on the local elements. We still try and incorporate that too, make sure that we're kind of capturing what the neighborhood feel is, the neighborhood vibe is, and incorporate that into our design schematics and what's going to really appeal to the demographic that's there. Like in the South Loop, this used to be a historic art gallery in our South Loop location, and so we kind of kept a lot of the natural tin ceilings that are there. We transitioned to the Streeterville office, which is a lot more modern of a feel to just kind of a lot of glass, high ceilings, black and white elements with that contrast. So Bucktown is a very artsy area, and there's a lot of color and a lot of vibrance. It's almost a little bit hipster, so we want to incorporate those warm kind of earthy tones, add some vibrance to it as well in a new appeal. So we're going over those finishes now.
So I think at this point what we'll do is we can even put up like a photo of like the floor plan. We've actually have a finalized floor plan. What's happened since our last vid we talked about design is we've now picked out all the materials we're going to use. We've designed the layouts all set. This part kind of goes by much quicker now. It's where we get the contract involved to know where they're going to put things. That way, once we submit for permitting, all we're doing is buying everything, and once it comes through, construction's ready to go. So it kind of happens pretty quick at this point.
We've made a lot of mistakes before in this process. What we're doing that's a little bit different this time around is, we hired an independent architect and design firm without selecting a contractor. Usually what we've done in the past is select a contractor, then figure out, we get a quote, then we get design, and then the quote's completely off because we've picked all these finishes that are different. So now we're saying, okay, let's do it a little bit differently and get the architect, let's pick out all the finishes, let's finalize a floor plan all the way down to what does the doorknob look like and what do the fixtures look like. And because of that, we're able to get a very, very, very accurate idea in a bid. We bid out these features and we say, okay, contractor 1, 2, and 3, give us a cost, right? So now we're comparing apples instead of just apples, oranges, bananas. That way we can get a really accurate cost. And then when we go into financing, we're not overshooting or undershooting our cost, from there. So those are I think we made a lot of mistakes the first few times we did this, and now as we refine the process, getting a good architect, designer, and engineer, even though there's a lot of upfront cost that's associated with that, saves you a lot of money on the back end. We've dealt with expensive HVAC issues that have cost us $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And if we had a better engineer in the first place, it would have been a much smoother process for us. So, I think we start talking about the elements that we chose, and I think for Bucktown, it really is earthy, it's natural elements, it has a more airy feel that I think fits well with that neighborhood, and I think we can go over some of that right now.
When we're walking in, basically the office is going to have two types of flooring. We're going to have this LVT flooring, which kind of resembles wood, but is very durable with wear and tear in the weather, but nice warm earthy tones. Reception desk is going to be kind of right in front of you, and there's going to be this kind of mirrored metallic frosted appearance with a white Calcutta quartz countertop, and it's going to be bar height, so that way the receptionist has to stand up, greet you, and adds kind of a nice dimension of height. Then to the right of that, we're going to have this logo wall that's going to go all the way up. I think the ceilings are 16 feet, but it's going to have this almost like etched but in white appearance and texture and pattern to it, with a black Dentologie logo to it. A lot more simpler than what we've had in the past. Not as big, not as in your face, but a little bit more simpler and elegant. We're going to deal with a lot of different tones of greens and textures and patterns for both wallpaper and decor.
So guys, right now I'm going to talk about the design of the hallways and the design of the operatories. So classically, the way we've designed both offices, we have our operatories structured very linearly. So if you take a peek, everything goes down the hallway, side by side, very parallel, very even. One thing we want to do is we want to make it a little differently. So what we do is, and we'll show a photo, an idea, and a rendering of what we want to do, is the size of the hallways. One part will remain relatively clean and simple, but we're gonna have a staggered look to it. So it's gonna have like an optical illusion to it. There'll be some lighting in there as well. And now the operatories are actually be twisting them. So it's gonna add a different layer of dimension. So let me go into the room, one of the old rooms that we have here, and I'll show you an idea of what we have now and kind of an idea of what to expect with the newer rooms and maybe some of the challenges. These are the little things you kind of have to plan out for when you're designing an office. You have to keep in mind that you have doctors working, so hey, how are they moving around? Is there enough depth for where the chairs are sitting? When you're moving lights around, is it gonna hit things? So these are little things you gotta pay attention to, and this is where you talk about to your equipment, the things you talk about with your equipment rep. If you have a good architect and designer, they're looking into this kind of stuff and checking into it all the time. So here's an example of the rooms that we have now. Very airy, spacey. This one over here particularly is a little wide. So what we're gonna be doing, and it's what's staying the same, where the chair is relatively the same. Your TV in the front will relatively be the same in the ceiling as well. What will be different is this whole room is actually needs to be tilted. So that's what's gonna be a little different there. So what it means is this opening here, rather than being here, will actually kind of be this way. So it will allow for the doctor to have more room to work with there. The biggest issue we had, and I actually got a measuring tape just so you guys can see here, was right now this room, just to measure for you, about 11 and a half feet. So that's actually a little above normal. And with our new rooms, we're lucky if we're gonna be able to hit 8 feet diagonally. So that's tough just because you have to factor in how low the chair goes and how far before not only does it hit the drawer, but if it doesn't, how much room you have for the drawer to open. So our designer fortunately has been able to work around this, making little tweaks, and as the subsequent videos come along and we talk about design, we'll talk about what we did to kind of remedy that and get around that. All right, so we're gonna talk about some of the materials we're using for specifically the operatories and the hallways. So what we went with is this for the flooring just about everywhere. It's gonna have like a herringbone pattern. So the rendering you'll see on the screen in a sec here will show you an idea of how that looks, and this is gonna go everywhere. We went lighter to kind of give it an airy feel. Only other place it's gonna be different is right here with the 2 bathrooms. So cool pattern, be darker grout so it can black out the color a little bit, so it'll look really cool in there. And then when we go to the actual operatories, it's gonna be a really cool design. So if you see the rendering, it's gonna show this, and it's kind of boxed up, and because the rooms are diagonal, there's a cool element dimension, and they added even another layer of dimension because of how the designers were able to like layer this, so it looks really cool. And on the opposite side, where it's actually open and we see patients, the countertop will kind of have this white color to it, and behind that it'll have this white material on there. So this looks kind of gives it that openness, that airiness, the clean look that we really wanted. And the back of that wall, back of the front of the chair will actually have this material, which is going to go all along that wall. So it looks really cool. The renderings you see kind of give it a nice look. Like again, we're going for airy, big, but even though we have slight space constraints, it's nice that we're kind of able to maneuver and figure that out. And of course, this has to be ADA accessible, so there's still plenty of room to move around. We are going for 7 rooms. 7 rooms is kind of a sweet spot for us. Maybe during subsequent videos, we could talk about why, and from a financial perspective, because part of this has to also be driven by making sure the business is still a business. So we can get into more details with that.
Streeterville is like it's like the arm that doesn't get a lot of attention from us. I'm joking.
What are you guys doing?
You know, we just decided, we wanted to see what the real gangsters are. Yeah. So we came here to hang out. But we're gonna be talking about design. Where are you running off to? Nobody wants to talk to me. What's going on? How are you? How's the day going for you today?
Wonderful.
Nobody's very excited to see us. So we're in Streeterville, and so we wanted to just kind of show you what this practice looks like. So I think when we talked originally was, okay, the design of this practice, we try to make it look exactly like the neighborhood that it's in. So Streeterville is very young, it's hip, has a lot of like really cool restaurants. So we wanted to create something that didn't feel like a dental office, but very modern, has like a really different aesthetic. So we went with a lot of black and white. We accented that with some like beautiful wood. You know, the cool things that we did with the operatories, we had a lot of glass. You know, the one problem that we have in this space is that we only have one window, right? So you can see, like in traditional retail, you know, the window's in the front of the space, so you don't get a lot of natural light. So the challenge that we had with this design was, how do we create a space that looks and airy and has kind of that natural light element? In South Loop we have multiple windows, so it's much easier to get light into the room. So this is the front office here. This is the reception area. It doesn't feel like you're actually at the dentist. You know, the one thing that we try to do is you know, try to create something that, you know, has a really cool vibe. But we can take a really quick peek at what the dental operatories look like. So when we designed it, you know, we said, okay, we only have light in one area. We wanted to add a lot of glass to make it feel very open and not feel like you're claustrophobic, and it still has like that airy feeling. So we have glass at the front of the operatory that you can kind of see here, and then we have glass in between the chairs, and that really kind of is what makes the office look really cool. Each one of the bays here kind of looks exactly the same. So they all have glass at the front, in between the chairs, so you can kind of see that if you pan around. You know, each one has like a TV in the front and has a TV on the top. You know, and we also have hand wash stations. So what we did with the hand wash stations, we tried to create this really natural wood element, and we use something called stick wood. So these are like pieces of wood that you kind of apply almost like a wallpaper, and it creates a really natural looking element here. You know, the one thing that we try to do is, you know, again, obviously we have the airiness with the glass, but how do we create something that has, you know, one thing that we thought about was, when you lay back in the chair, is there like a light that is going to be like right on top of you? So when we said we want to do a lot of indirect lighting, you know, in this space, so we have this really cool reflective light that's there that points up, so all the lighting is dispersed evenly throughout the room without bothering your eyes. We do the same thing, so there's a light that's on top of there that rains down the wallpaper, so that's like a really cool aspect of the design as well. So you know, we're gonna keep going down the corner here. This is like our central sterilization. It almost feels like a bar, right? It's like 30 feet long. We have like this beautiful white quartz, black cabinets. Really gives it a really cool aesthetic. You know, the same thing, a lot of indirect lighting. Feels really like calm, has a really good ambiance. So this was like, I think, like a really cool design practice, right? And I think it has caught a lot of attention. So we won a design award for this practice. It's actually the International Academy of Interior Design. We won an award, Best Healthcare Practice in North America. So that was last year. So now we said, you know, once we set the bars so high, now we got to say, okay, how do we keep creating practices that have like an award-winning design like this? So I think the job is hard, right? But it's something that we value and something that's really important to us. So we're gonna keep trying. We'll see how Bucktown looks.